Are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or just somebody working who has heard of the term CEO Day and maybe had your interest piqued? Well, I'm going to share with you what questions I cover in a CEO Day. I'm actually going to screen share and show you what I use for my template every single month to kind of spark some ideas for you of how you can use a CEO Day to take control of your business, your side hustle, or I feel strongly that even if you're full-time at a company, you should be doing this. Before we jump into it, I'm Logan Clements. I'm a freelance event producer based in Seattle, Washington, but I execute events here and all over the world. I do want to remind you to subscribe, turn on that little notification bell so you get notified every single Monday when I drop new videos. I'm also the co-host of the Better Events podcast with fellow event pro Mary Davidson. We go even more into some of these topics that I talk about here on my YouTube. I do talk about retreats and we talk about small business owner lessons in just a longer form. Those episodes are around 30 minutes each. So if you want to learn more about those, go wherever you listen to podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel, so the Better Events podcast. So this concept of CEO Day is not necessarily something new that I invented. It's something I've adapted from other entrepreneurs, business coaches, other business owners, you name it. I've also talked about this topic, or at least a similar take on it, here on YouTube in the past. 2 years ago, I talked all about why it's important for you to go on a solo retreat day. And this CEO Day kind of stems off of that and fills kind of a need that I was looking for of doing that kind of deep thinking as a business owner more often than just once a year or even twice a year. So what is a CEO Day? A CEO Day is a day where I take myself out of my business, of the doing of my business. So I do events, I do a lot of event planning, event production. So I step away from the planning of events and I take time to think about my business. Logan Strategy Group. You can go to loganstrategygroup.com to learn more about it. But I wear many hats as both an event planner and a business owner. I also call myself a freelancer. And I find that I often spend 90% of my time, even 99% of my time, doing work for other people and not as much time for doing work for myself. So I started doing a CEO Day. I would put my CEO hat on and think about long-term strategy and just really, again, the admin, the business side of what I'm doing. A CEO Day, usually it's a day long. I will say I challenge this and I've just found that even 2-3 hours is sometimes the max I can do based on what all the other things I have going on. And that's okay, that counts. So I say CEO Day and I use it interchangeably even if I only worked a couple hours. But the keys for me that I found success is that I make sure I schedule this on my calendar, I block it out, I don't take calls, I don't look at anything else. I'm just going to be thinking about big questions about my business, checking in with myself also because I don't have a boss. This maybe would be if you had a boss, you might think of some of these questions on your own, but I also think as an individual, if you don't have a great boss, they're not going to have you think critically about some of these questions. And also some of these questions you might not want to say in front of your boss because they might be too personal. Who knows? But anyway, I'm going to take time to think about these questions. One key thing for me is that I need to kind of change up my location. I find I do my best thoughts for this, not in my home office or at a place that I frequently go to. I have a couple coffee shops in my neighborhood that have served as really good CEO Day. I know they have ample seating, Wi-Fi, and I know I can just sit there and my mind already knows, okay, we're thinking of something different. We're not in our normal routine. All right, so this is a note that I literally copied and pasted from a larger note that I've started to do where I like to keep all of my CEO days for the year all together, or the notes from them, because it's really interesting for me to see how I evolve and change and maybe what I answer these questions different, change. Again, this isn't the only way to do your CEO Day, but this is meant to be a jumping off point for you. I have found it is easier to look at what someone else is doing and say, I want to do that question, want to do not that. Okay, so anyway, how am I building my dream life? This is that big kind of woo-woo start to my CEO Day, which is kind of fun. It is fun to think it's really reconnecting with my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? My industry with events can be a very stressful industry. It can be really long days. Why am I doing it? Because I often am just doing it. And this is a moment where I get to go, why? And how am I doing that? I also like to reflect on what I want. This seems like a silly question, but I also tend to be a people pleaser. And so I know that I will say yes to a lot of things, but are they really what I want? I had the most liberating thought, revelation probably 2 years ago when I got a job offer from someone while I was working for myself. They offered me a job and I had this realization where looking at what they wanted to do and why they asked me, it was the biggest compliment because I realized I was like, I could crush this job. I would do so well in this job. Like I could do what they needed me to do, but I personally wouldn't find fulfillment in it. And so I didn't end up saying yes to it and I walked away. And that was so empowering, and I was very gracious as I said no, and they were very gracious and understanding. It wasn't something I loved to do, but it was like this moment I was like, oh my gosh, just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I need to do it. So you might have already figured that out. That was helpful. Then I get into some crunching of the numbers. Again, I have a bookkeeper who helps me out and keeps me honest, but at times I feel like I go on autopilot with my finances. So I take a look at my P&L, my profit and loss statement, just to really look and see how do I compare to last month? Anything unusually high compared to previous months, or is everything kind of sitting right? Nothing's like categorized in my QuickBooks. Are there any expenses that I don't need? This has helped me catch a couple subscriptions that I didn't need as a business, that maybe one client needed a tool a year ago and I've caught it in time. I've also missed a couple in the past, but anything I can cut out, which is great. That means more money in the bank. And how can I help out my future self financially? So this is where I'm thinking about retirement contributions, making sure that if I have some business loans, am I making progress on those loans? Just some stuff that I've like automated with my finances, that this is the moment once a month that I like to check in and be like, where are we at? How are we feeling? Are we looking good? And these questions evolve a little bit, as you'll see here, like the mid-year, based on what time of the year we're in. I pulled this from my last one that I did in July, so that's why some of these questions are that way. But I do a mid-year reflection. Again, I didn't do this in March. I did this July, and I didn't really dive in as much as I want, so I'm going to do it again. I did it again in August, and I'm going to do it again probably in September, just because I've had a busy summer. But what do I still want to accomplish this year? This bullet I think I'm going to keep of what do I still want to accomplish this year, because we do your New Year's resolutions and then you forget about them. Luckily on the podcast, we record them and then we have to go back and listen, which is quite fun to do. But I like this check-in. And then because we're already halfway through 2024, I'm looking ahead to 2025. What new events do I want to go after? For you, this could be new business, new projects, new clients, new colleagues, connections, who knows? I do my monthly reflection in my passion planner. I love it. It has even more of these questions, but it's just written out in my planner. And that's just always fun just to check in with myself. And then these last two bullets are key, so key for me. Schedule the next CEO day. This is something that if I don't do it before, I'll all of a sudden be like, it's the end of the month and I have no time, because I need to block out the time on my calendar. I took this from a productivity book too, was to book a backup slot. So I always book 2 slots, and I have an option 1 and an option 2. And this does give future me the opportunity, if something comes up and I need to accommodate a client call or something, I can cancel one of those slots knowing I still have another slot booked out. I started just doing that a couple months ago, and it has been a game changer for making sure I actually get this CEO day afternoon in. And then my last bullet, this is like, usually you've done all these deep thinking and now your brain's not as firing on as many cylinders, but this is a great place to do like random to-dos, or I call it a power hour. Like if you have had some to-dos on your planner or your to-do list for the last like month that are only going to take like 5 minutes, whether it's like returning a package or calling this one organization and disputing something, like just do it. And this is where I call it a power hour, just make it sound fun. You can probably do it all in an hour for whatever these random little to-dos you're trying to do, or have the moment where you realize if it's been on your to-do list for 3 months, you still haven't done it, maybe you just take it off your to-do list. This is an example of my CEO day. There are some questions I will throw on based on the month or how I'm feeling, where I'm at in my business, but hopefully this helped you think about what you need for your CEO day. I found having some kind of like structural framework with these bullets just helps me feel a little bit better than just a blinking cursor on a blank page. So again, it has been something that has helped me so much in my business, so I hope you give it a try. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below or reach out to me on my website, loganstrategygroup.com. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.